Oh, okay. Well, it's June 6th. Technically, actually, the D-Day landings were scheduled, I think, for what, like June 4th, I think, or June 5th, because of the bad weather in the English Channel. This and that is the reason why they didn't have the landings. So, they delayed it and everything else, and that, they had the landings on June 6th. And, there's so many issues you can talk about. People have spent, created careers out of, D-Day and, the war on the Western Front, I guess you could say. People like Stephen Ambrose, for example, including the Normandy, the World War II Museum down in Nolens. But that's a whole other issue. The thing is that for years now, especially during the Trump administration, people have said, oh, well, my, my grandfather landed on Normandy so that we could fight fascism, and we're doing the same thing right now against Trump. Rah! And it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous for numerous reasons, because obviously it wasn't all fascists. The reality is that the U.S., like I say, people can bring up Operation Paperclip. That's kind of, like I say, it's played out. Yeah, we know Werner von Braun and all this. But the other people we also forget about. We forget about working with Klaus Barbie, the Butcher of Lyon, who the U.S. worked with because we wanted information on French spies in the French sector of Berlin. And allegedly, Klaus Barbie helped the United States in tracking down Che Guevara, right? So I think it's ridiculous to me, where it's like, oh yeah, well, we fought fascism. And of course, this is the typical sort of boomer lib argument. Conservatives really, I don't think, at least in my opinion, don't really give that much of a fuck. They'll say, yeah, we fought fascism, but they do it because they're Zionists. That's the whole thing, at least in my opinion. They're light Zionists. They're I was trying to make a comparison between that, like alt-light versus, they're just light Zionists. That's all they are. But anywho, so the myth of Normandy. It's a myth because obviously the whole of the French coast was not liberated, particularly the area of Pas-de-Calais and the area around that continued to be defended up until, I think, April of 1945. This small area, they're like, nah, we got to keep pushing forward, so we're going to leave it. But there are plenty of German forces that were up there. Shout out to Mark Felton for that. But yeah, take it with a grain of salt, I know. But the fact is that, as everybody who posts those things, like Cuomo, who will post those pics of of the landing craft, the image of of debarking from the landing craft and all this sort of bullshit, the Higgins boats and all that business. The thing is that every fucking time, at least one person is going to comment under that tweet, that they'll post a picture of the how racist are the record of how do you feel about integration in the U.S. Army, and they'll be 90% negative and all this other stuff. Man, the dementia's really acting up today. Sorry. Some days I can keep it together, but anywho, that's always the one that they post, and to a point, certain folks are correct when it's like the campaign of the U.S. versus Nazi Germany in the Second World War was basically white supremacy versus white nationalism. Now, like I said, it's all we have to be careful about using, those phrases and everything else. But I think that that's really, kind of brings it to a point, yeah, where it's like we're going to have black folks and we're going to put them in apartheid versus white nationalism, where it's like it's only going to be white folks who exist in this area. So, anywho, I think that it just reveals kind of the myth further. The fact is that the U.S. Army, after the Second World War, was hugely influenced by the German Army of the Second World War. Take a look at the design of most, of the Pasget helmet, and obviously the legacy of the Pasget helmet and modern, helmets today were all influenced by the German style helm. The 1916 German style helm, which of course then became the M36 and the M40 helmet, and M42 helmet. Sorry, I think I'm getting that mixed up with the uniforms. But anywho, the M60 comes from the FG42. In design, the fact that the squad tactics comes a lot from the German army. So this myth that we were fighting fascism, no, it's nonsense. It's nonsense. It's a lie. Didn't fight fascism. You just wanted to get rid of the overt notions of it. That's what people were mad about, is that it was just overt about things. But the overall, aspects of it, when you really want to dig into it, I don't think this is conspiracy theory. I think this is just like simple. I mean, boomers will probably think this was conspiracy theory, but I think that most ordinary people be like, yeah, no shit, everyone knows this, but that's the fact of the matter. It's a myth. It's a myth to think that the U.S. destroyed fascism and all. No, it didn't. No, it had nothing to do with it. If you want to put it that way, and if you want to say, oh, this and that, they just wanted the more overt tones destroyed. The fact is, they'll use whatever gets them better positions. So, no, they don't give a shit about that. That's ridiculous. And I think, people will eventually wake up. This is why, in general, when you've studied history, even me as a very basic bitch sort of guy, it doesn't really matter. You can study the dates all day and whatnot, but it just kind of, it flows over you. You're just like, yeah, it's a lot of complications. To me, you can start out being, oh yeah, well, the U.S. was cool, or, studying about, the Germans, oh, they were so cool. But I think, the more you learn about all these different subjects and all these different folks, is that you learn that the game doesn't change. And yeah, they can promote whatever BS ideology they want to, but it all kind of comes back to the center, right? And that ultimately they just serve the purpose of, of capitalists, I mean, Wigness can go ahead and say, oh, they were going to make a great society and everything. Eventually Hitler was going to get rid of the capitalists and, come on, man. Really? I don't know. But it's the same way with, the U.S. wanting to bring in Wernher von Braun. And, of course, they threw his assistant to the wolves. And so they kicked him out of the U.S. because he was more connected with the use of slave labor, under Albert Speer's control of the armaments production. So, like I say, Wernher von Braun, he was left perfectly, he was left alone. I don't think that this is a shock or a hot take. It's just something that once boomer libs die off naturally, then I think in a lot of ways that myth of Normandy will die as well. And that's all we can really hope for, and it will be a small step in the right direction. Anywho, I hope y'all enjoy that. See you later, and a goodbye.